this one. Wait, I see some question here. What's memorable? Memorable, like remarkable, like something you can remember all the time because it was very important at that time. Algo que podemos recordar como que muy fácilmente porque, digamos, en la niñez fue algo muy importante, o sí, like unforgettable. Que se quedan tus recuerdos, dice Andrés. Muy bien, claro que sí, es eso, es eso. It's highly recognized around the world, yes, but it can also be memorable only to you, no? Something like you remember because it happens at a given time in your life that it was very important to you. Entonces solamente puede ser solamente para ti, algo que pasó en un momento dado de tu vida que fue, mejor dicho, fue muy, muy importante. Entonces, pues en ese caso, that's like memorable. Okay, great. So we're going to listen to the interview. It is very short, but we're going to listen one time fully. Then I'm going to ask you some questions to see if you understand, and then we're going to immediately through to the questions of the book. Okay, I'm going to heat up the volume. Okay, let's listen.
What first drew you to advertising as a career choice?
What drew me to advertising was actually, in a weird way, I had no choice. Third generation advertising guy. My father's brother, my uncle, who was 15 years older than he, was in advertising, believe it or not, in the 1940s in Philadelphia. My father kind of took the baton from him, was in advertising, and I grew up with it. And so I've been making a living in the business since 1984. It's a long time. It's 30 years.
Do you still remember any commercials from your childhood?
So I remember a lot of commercials. Growing up in an advertising household, as we did, TV was more of a social event in those days. It wasn't a TV in every room. Like the family would gather to watch television. And we were told not to talk, during the commercials. We could talk during the shows. So I grew up kind of watching commercials. I remember a lot of commercials. I bet you most people of my generation would remember a lot of, and I feel kind of guilty saying this because they're usually decried as not very creative, but you remember a lot of jingles.
What do you think makes jingles memorable?
Among purists in the field, jingles are, last off that, but what do they call them? Earworms. They get in your head and you can't do almost everyday exposure 6 times a day. Get in there, do there was a big one for you. There was a Kids Hot cartoon. It was very rudimentary. I saw it today. You want to be a national broadcast, and it was a little story of Willie and Wilhelmina, and Willie trips on a rock, and he's every trip over that rock, Willie says, Willie, and he says, can't, too big. I bet you can find it. And she says, I will, and he says, huh, you're a girl, and she picks it up. And it comes up and it goes, strong Wilhelmina eats her farina. Like I said, I heard that 500 times, maybe more when I was growing up, because it was every weekend for about 8 years.
Okay. Do you think, did you understand like most of the video, or mind of, or so, or probably no under you didn't understand very well. ¿Qué tanto entendimos del video? What can you tell me? Incluso por el chat podría ser, en inglés, si es en inglés perfecto, si es en español, muy bien también. Si te quieren hablar también no hay ningún problema, estoy para escuchar. Quiero saber qué tanto entendimos. It was kind of a little bit easier having written before the questions, don't you think? Because we already know they are going to speak about the family. We already know they were going to speak about jingles. Did you hear the word jingle? Did you hear the word jingle? I did. Did you? Bueno, por aquí Liliana dijo, teacher, it was not possible to listen well. It was not. Guys, didn't you listen well the audio? I I think that it has, yes.
Teacher, yes, but the last part was really difficult to understand because I don't know if my internet have problem or if the video was was problem.
Okay. Yes. I don't know. Well, I see the video here, and it was like very like straight up. It doesn't stop or anything. But probably Liliana dice que sí. Yes, it was coded sometimes. Yes. Well, I don't know, but we can review it. We are going to review it question by question, no? So I was okay. Let's listen to the first question and let's see here. Excuse me, I'm still sharing this, but it's not necessary. We're going to see the first two questions, the first two questions of the material we're working on, that it is which other members of his family have worked in advertising. Entonces vamos a escuchar qué otros miembros de su familia trabajaron en la publicidad. Lo escuchamos bien. Yo sé que ahí mencionó por lo menos mencionó dos muy claramente. When did George start working in advertising? Vamos a ver esas dos preguntas que yo sé que las resuelven en la primera pregunta que le hace la entrevistadora. Listo. Ok. Liliana says, espérate, por aquí says, Andrés says, your dad and your uncle. His dad and his uncle, or father, brother, and uncle. Okay, three. Or his father and uncle. The questions are very different. His uncle and her father. And well, I listen. Let's listen to it again. The first question, and excuse me. Okay, here. And we can understand what happens with that. What happens with that? Okay. First question. Let's see. I'm going to stop when she finished saying the question. Voy a parar cuando ella termine de decir la pregunta para que miremos qué fue lo que ella le preguntó, porque no es lo mismo de lo que no son las mismas preguntas que tenemos allí. Listo. Okay. Give me a minute. Okay.
What first drew you to advertising as a career choice?
What drew me to
What first? What first? Excuse me.
What first drew you to advertising as a career choice?
What first drove you to advertising or working with these career roles? No? Here's what that says. Excuse me.
What first drew you to advertising as a career choice?
to advertising as a career choice, no? So she is asking him about about in general what lead him, que lo llevó a trabajar en la carrera de publicidad o en los asuntos de publicidad. Entonces ahí nos va a contestar esas dos preguntas que vimos al principio.
What drew me to advertising was actually, in a weird way, I had no choice. Third generation advertising guy. My father's brother, my uncle, who was 15 years older than he, was in advertising, believe it or not, in the 1940s.
Okay. He says that his father's brother,
Father's brother.
or that means his uncle, he said, my uncle, my father's brother, that means my uncle, he was 15 years older than his father, and he was already working on advertising at that time. So it's not the father, it's not his brother, it's his uncle, only his uncle. But he said third generation of advertising family working. So you can say that if it is third generation, si decimos es tercera generación, bueno, voy a explicar un poquito lo del papá en español un poquito. Entonces, él dice que, bueno, el hermano de su padre, o sea, su tío, era el que trabajaba en publicidad. Era 15 años mayor que él y en ese momento ya estaba trabajando en publicidad desde ese tiempo. Entonces, él dice que tercera generación, third generation of family working on advertising. Entonces, ¿eso qué quiere decir? Que la generación de él fue la tercera generación que trabajó, o sea, la anterior fue la de su tío, ¿cierto? Ya van dos generaciones y me imagino que entonces tuvo que haber trabajado alguno de sus abuelos o algún familiar de sus abuelos, alguno de sus tío abuelos o algo así, tuvieron que haber trabajado también para que fuera tercera generación. Entonces es como algo, digamos, que merece atención, pues porque es algo, es algo raro, ¿cierto? Pareciera que fueron los primeros que trabajaron en publicidad, eh, pero, pero bueno, digamos que no nos dejemos confundir por esas cositas. Third generation es porque vamos tres generaciones trabajando, tres generaciones quiere decir el hijo del hijo del hijo, ¿cierto? Que vamos así por familia, vamos trabajando en eso, entonces ahí vamos, ¿cierto? Bien.
In Philadelphia, my father kind of took the baton from him, was in advertising, and I grew up with it. And so I've been making a living in the business since 1984.
Did you listen if the father was working on advertising or maybe not? Was the father working on advertising? What do you think? He said, he took a lot from him. He took a lot from him. Nos acaba de decir que el tío trabajaba en publicidad desde hacía ya mucho tiempo, que le llevaba 15 años al papá y que estaba trabajando desde hace ya mucho tiempo. Y luego nos dice, and my father, he took a lot from him. He took a lot from him, ¿no? Tomó mucho de él y se supone que en este caso el padre también estaba trabajando en publicidad, ¿no? In advertising. Very good. Publicity and advertising are two different things for you to have it clear. Okay? Good.
Time. It's 30 years.
Do you still remember any commercials from your childhood?
So I remember a lot
Okay,
of
so
commercials.
he says that he started working on advertising in the year.
It's 1984. It's a long time. It's 30 years.
Do you still remember
1984. No? 1984. I don't know if that answered the questions. Yes. Yes, the first two questions are answered. Very good, Liliana. He took, the year was 1984, and he grew He grew with that. He grew with it. He grew with it. Very good. Excuse me. Aquí Liliana sí nos había dicho que father's brother. Que father's brother. Ok, good. Sí, me pueden hablar mucho mejor porque como yo paso a video, pero no voy a ver el video, voy a dejar el video y a meterme en los comentarios para también poder ver. Very good. We continue with the second question. Let's see if we can let's see if we can answer the following two questions. Let's see.
Do you still remember any commercials from your childhood? Commercials from childhood?
It's a long time. It's 30 years.
Do you still remember any commercials from your childhood?
Do you still remember any commercials from your childhood? ¿Todavía recuerdas algún comercial de tu niñez? ¿Alguien nos responde?
I remember a lot of commercials. Growing up in an advertising household, as we did, TV was more of a social event in those days. It wasn't a TV in every room. Like the family would gather to watch television. And we were told not to talk, during the commercials. We talked during the shows. I grew up kind of watching commercials. I remember a lot of commercials.
Excuse me, guys. Do you know what a household is? A household?
Not
He said,
teacher.
I grew up in a... okay. He said, I grew up in a household, in an advertising household, something like that. It is because Liliana suggests ama de casa, good, but I mean, it is close because of the house. Ama de casa podría ser más bien como housewife. En este caso, household, it refers to like a house where everyone there work on the same thing. They have like the same, ¿cómo decirlo? Tienen el mismo, como el mismo objetivo, trabajan todos en lo mismo. So, for example, here it is, I mean, in my house, everyone is a doctor. So, it's not true, but I mean, it is an example. In my house, everyone is a doctor. So, my house is a doctor's household. No? And I'm going to review. What was TV when the family was watching TV? All have the same profession. Yes, Liliana, household. It means. Did you listen? Did you listen the answer to the question? Why? What can't be done or couldn't be done when the TV was on in George's house? ¿Qué era lo que no podían hacer cuando estaban viendo televisión en la casa de George?
I think that they couldn't talk when the commercial show up.
Yes, Christian, that's the answer. They couldn't talk when the commercials, when the advert was on TV, no? During commercials, they couldn't talk at all. But if they were watching a show, whatever show they were not during the commercials. Probably because they were like learning from what they were watching. Probablemente porque estaban aprendiendo de lo que veían, ¿no? Igual eran todos de esa misma profesión. Entonces, pues tal vez era por eso. But it is funny, no? Because they couldn't talk when they were seeing the commercials. That's what we do. We go to the bathroom when there is commercials. We go for something to eat when there is commercials. Okay, great. Very good, Christian. Very good. Thank you very much. They had to be quiet. Another way to say it. Very good. During commercial. They had to be quiet. So let's continue. Could be. Okay.
Commercials. I remember a lot of commercials. I bet you most people of my generation would remember a lot of, and I feel kind of guilty saying this because they're usually decried as not very creative, but you remember a lot of jingles.
What do you think makes jingles memorable?
What is the thing that the part of the commercial that he most remember? That he most remember? What does he think about commercials at that time? He had to be quiet during commercials. Jingles,
Jingles,
okay.
maybe jingles.
Jingles, yes, yes, probably jingles. Esteban and and Christian, good. Jingles, and he said that he remembers a lot. That probably jingles or commercials are not from the very good at that time. Were not like from the very perfect or the very good place. Tenían una reputación perfecta o muy buena de comerciales, o sea, como que los comerciales en ese tiempo eran malitos, but he said that very good, Liliana. Music. Jingles are about music. Yes, we're going to see it right away. Él entonces nos dice que en ese tiempo no eran tan buenos, que se siente, he felt a little guilty for saying that, but he actually remembered a lot of commercials. Recuerda muchísimos comerciales y se siente un poco culpable con eso porque los comerciales eran malos, pero igual se le quedaron como muy grabados, ¿no? Very good. So we are going to see why does he think that jingles are so memorable.
Among purists in the field, jingles are, laughed at, scoffed at, but God, you remember them. What do they call them? Earworms. They get in your head and you can't get them out sometimes. And you add that to, almost everyday exposure, 6 times a day. It's going to get in there. I can do, I could sing one for you. There was a,
Okay, he's going to give an example, but right now he's saying he already said what does he think that jingles are so memorable. Do you know why that he says? Do you understand? ¿Entienden por qué él dijo que creían que? Many times a day, very good, Esteban, many times a day, because we listen to it 6 times a day. So we can, it kinds of get into your head. That's what he says. Que más o menos algo así como que se le mete a uno en la cabeza. Creo que para eso eran, ¿no? Creo que para eso eran los comerciales. It's easy to memorize because of the lyrics, maybe because of the music also. Yes, yes, Liliana, that's right. And also because yes, that's it. It's easy to memorize because will you listen to it many times a day, and because it is a total exposure. Because you listen to it here, but it is also playing in the radio, or it is also played in your friend's house. Porque hay una exposición máxima, ¿cierto? Porque yo no lo escucho solamente aquí cuando estoy viendo la televisión, que yo voy pasando por la tienda y tienen la televisión prendida y también voy puede escucharlo allá. Entonces, yo de una, mi cerebro como que lo identifica, ¿cierto? Más o menos eso es lo que él dice. Yo estoy agregándole más palabras, pero estoy explicando un poquito más. It's easy to memorize, very good. That is the answer. You could say, because it is easy to memorize, because it was played many times a day, because of the music, and that's it. Because of posture, very good. It makes it crazy. This makes it crazy. Yes, even though, do you remember some jingles from your childhood? For example, yo recuerdo ese comercial de Me siento bien, de unas páginas, de unas como unas pastillas para el dolor. No sé si es Advil, pues no sé ni la marca que es, pero me acuerdo muy bien que usaban esa canción y esa canción y el video era como una persona que iba como quedándose, como que le iba desde los huesos, pasaba por la piel y luego le salía, perdón, músculo y luego piel. Recuerdo mucho ese, entonces, pues, de más que ustedes también tienen otros que pueden recordar y también es por la misma razón, ¿no? Y we can continue. I
Yes,
think
teacher.
you have something else to say. If you have something to add, that would be great. If not, that would be great too.
Yeah, I remember all the commercial of Frutinho brand.
Ave, with el pibe, con el pibe Valderrama. Okay, great. I remember that too. Okay, so we're about to finish. Let's listen to the example that he gives. He starts speaking about HO Farina TV commercials. So let's listen.
A kid's hot cereal, a hot cereal for children called H.O. Farina. It was an animated cartoon. It was very rudimentary. If you saw it today, you wouldn't believe it was like a national broadcast cartoon. And it was a little story of Willie and Wilhelmina. And Willie trips on a rock. And he goes, every day I trip over that rock, Wilhelmina. And she says, move it, Willie. And he says, can't, too big. And I bet you I'm getting this word for word, if you could find it. And she says, I will. And he says, huh, you're a girl. She picks it up. And then the jingle comes up and it goes, strong Wilhelmina eats her farina.
Okay. I think we can answer the question. What kind of adverts were the HO Farina TV commercial? What kind of adverts? Como qué creen que era, qué tipo creen o que escucharon que era el tipo de ¿cómo se dice? El tipo de publicidad, en ese caso en el de Farina, HO Farina. It says it is a rudimentary cartoon. I mean, he speaks very fast, but he says that it is a rudimentary cartoon. Why? Because probably it wasn't very pretty. It was like a simple cartoon. But what happens in the story of Wilhelmina and Willie? What happens in the story of Wilhelmina and Willie? He just said it. Did somebody understood? Or I have to play it again. ¿Qué pasó en la historia de Wilhelmina y Willie? Ok, no. I can repeat it, yes. Como empezamos 5 minuticos, como 5 minuticos después, les pido estos 5 minuticos más para que la hagamos completa, ¿les parece? Si no les parece o se deben retirar por alguna razón, no tengo ningún problema, pero la idea es que hagamos unos 5 minuticos más porque empezamos 5 minuticos después. Entonces, escuchemos otra vez la historia. Él empieza a contar la historia, ¿no? Ya vamos a terminar igual.
Can't, too big. And I bet you I'm getting this word for word. And Willie trips on a rock. If you saw it today, you wouldn't believe it was like a national broadcast cartoon. And it was a little story of Willie and Wilhelmina. And Willie trips on a rock. And he goes, every day I trip over that rock, Wilhelmina. And she says, move it, Willie. And he says, can't, too big. And I bet you I'm getting this word for word, if you could find it. And she says, I will. And he says, huh, you're a girl. And she picks it up. And then the jingle comes up and it goes.
Okay. That was again. So he says, Willie, all days, every day, tripped on a rock, tripped on a rock. I'm going to say it in English again, and if you want, you can give me, you can put on what you understand there in the chat or speaking when I finish. It doesn't matter. He said he every day trips on a rock, and that he says to Wilhelmina, and she said like move it, like he every day trips on the rock, so she said move it. So he said, I can't, it's too big. No puedo, es muy grande. I can't, it's too big. So she says, she goes on. She said, well, I'm going to move it. She said, I'm going to move it. But he said, you can't, you're a girl. No puedes, eres una chica. So she says, she goes and move the rock. So this there is when the jingle starts, the little song starts. So that's the story of Willie and Wilhelmina. But the thing is that he stops, él para la historia y empieza a decir que casi que él lo está diciendo palabra por palabra y que así literal era el comercial. So he says, you can search for it. I am saying like literally, como literalmente, lo está repitiendo como literalmente. So he do it, no? He do it. He said it. So then he start telling us the jingle. Let's listen to the jingle by George Tennembaun.
Comes up and it goes, strong Wilhelmina eats her farina. Like I said, I probably heard that 500 times, maybe more when I was growing up, because it was every weekend for about 8 years.
Did you understood what the jingle says? What the jingle says? Entendimos qué decía el jingle, qué frasecita él dice que cantaban en el jingle. No, okay. I'm going to repeat it and then I'm going to say it if there is a matter.
And then the jingle comes up and it goes, strong Wilhelmina eats her farina.
Then the jingle starts and it goes, strong Wilhelmina eats her farina. Yeah, like Wilhelmina was the farina, como que Wilhelmina era la harina, and she was very strong, so she could move the rock. Como que ella era muy fuerte, entonces pudo mover la roca. And yes, that's everything that he says, and he says that it continues like for I don't know how many years, I don't remember. And
like I said, I probably heard that 500 times, maybe more growing up, because it was every weekend for about 8 years.
For about 8 years, Andres. Very good. And yes, that was it. We answered all the questions. The last one was what happens in the story of Wilhelmina and Willie. I try to do it step by step. Hay preguntas, dudas, como H es algo que queda que reforcemos mañana sobre este mismo tema. Mañana podemos continuar con este aspecto de publicidad. Vamos a meterle otras cosas. Vamos a meterle otras cosas ¿Qué les pareció? So the commercial, it was about food. Farina, it's not, I don't know if that's the name in English. I mean, it is in Portuguese. In Portugués, a la harina le dicen farina, farina, in Portuguese. So probably it was like, I don't remember how do you say harina in English, but that makes her strong. Probablemente si las niñas, si Wilhelmina comía mucha harina, entonces se hacía mucho más fuerte y podía hacer lo que incluso Willy, que era un niño en ese tiempo, pues era, ustedes saben que las cosas en ese tiempo estaban como digamos muy, flour, Liliana, very good, flour. Entonces farina es otro, es otra, es una, se dice en otro idioma diferente. Entonces, digamos que por comer con la harina, entonces supuestamente se vuelve más fuerte. Digamos que, digamos que en este caso, el como tal es como muy, ustedes saben que en la publicidad son como muy, digamos, ¿cómo se dice? Como metiéndose como más al subconsciente. Entonces no las cosas directamente, pero pueden directamente van diciendo, van dándole como al público, creándole la necesidad de ciertos productos y así. The thing is that it was probably very a very popular commercial because of the gender things. Eres una, no, you're a girl, you can. But she said she only goes and move the rock, because he had problems with the rock every day, but she only goes and finish the problem. I mean, Farina was the answer to all. So, I mean, that's great. That's great. So, as I said, we can continue with this subject tomorrow. And thank you very much. Yo creo que ahorita sí terminamos. Si no hay más preguntas. Arina, por yes. Y creo que pues quedó claro. No sé si haya más preguntas, comentarios, sugerencias.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
teacher.
Okay, Andrés, I will. Okay, Christian, thank you. Thank you for being here and being participative. Por estar aquí y participar. Thank you, Esteban. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. I hope I can get everything better tomorrow. So, yes, thank you very much. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you very much.